Little ones. Bob man. Yo, I was just trying to find my way. I wanted to belong. I did a lot of lying, not thinking it was wrong. I got lost in the moment, trying to impress. Nowadays, honestly, really couldn't care less. As a kid, when I thought as a child, now a man, I see clearer than my youth, cause I fully understand and experience the best professor. That's no question. To survive, make it this far is a blessing full of lessons. Started soul searching earlier on, cause I was wildin'. My some peers were up north and others on the island. And ain't nobody smiling. A history of violence, whether free or locked up, it's acts of defiance, non-compliance, and never silence. Yet the quiet one is most likely the wisest. Hardly closes eyelids, always on they pivot, head on a swivel. Some ain't for real, they pretend to, and really out to get you. Little one, watch the little one. Be the apple of his eye, yes, the little one, watch the little one. Be careful how you handle the little one. Little one, watch the little one. They the apple of his eye, watch the little one. Little one, watch the little one. Be careful how you handle the little one. Walk straight and narrow. I didn't know what I know now, and what I know now, if I knew then, oh wow. Never been swindled. A fire's in me now kindled. I ain't trying to get into no idea what I've been through. I lost a lot of loved ones via death coat or both. Forward lessons being learned, had to sit and take notes. Sometimes we gotta sink rock bottom and go through it to the point your life's ruined, but don't lose it, there's redemption. Some don't wanna see you rise, they rejoice in your demise, while for them and their achievements brings tears to your eyes. Here's a disclaimer, just in case this one triggers how we used to be brothers too. I hate that nigga. Despise the mere side of you, praying for misfortune was never really for me. Now I learned to take caution. Can't be too welcoming, and sadly most with kin. The closest that's within, anticipating your end. Little one, watch the little one. They the apple of his eye, yes, the little one. Little one, watch the little one. Be careful how you handle the little one. Little one, watch the little one. They the apple of his eye, watch the little one. Little one, watch the little one. Be careful how you handle the little one. Be careful how you handle the little one. Be careful how you handle the little one. Peace. Salute. Salute, 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 salute. We back. We are back with another one. Children of that old serpent, sexual deviance. We are live. Once again, we are live. Thank you for tuning in. Those that's here, those that's about to tap in and tune in or check it out later, salute. I appreciate you. Don't forget, subscribe first and foremost, like what's going on, and leave a comment and share it. And let's keep it going. Continuing with the presentation of children of that old serpent, we're going to go into sexual deviance and speak on particularly the idea of the children, particularly males, being targeted. All right. So we're going to get into that. I'm going to present some things.
I got Bloody Mary.
I'm going to get TikTok going at the same time. For anyone to tap in as we go live, as we are live right now on YouTube. How do I do this? Give me 1 second, y'all.
No. 1 second. We are live right now on YouTube. Right now, live on YouTube. Just give me a second. All right. Salute everybody that's tuning in. We're about to get started right now. I'm just trying to do something real quick while I'm on here with you. There we go. There we go. Once again, we are live. We are live on YouTube. Those that are tuned in on TikTok, we are live on YouTube. Click the link in the bio. Click the link in the bio. Join us on the live on YouTube. As always, if you believe, praise God. If you don't, praise God. Either way, you have your liberty, you have your choice, you have your freedom. So today, continuing on with the topic of children of that old serpent, sexual deviance. And let's get right into it. So I'm going to show a couple of articles. You go again. These will be available in the description at the end of tonight's presentation. Everything will be in the description that was shared tonight. All right. Okay. Continue real quick. All right. So people always want you to subscribe to something. So this is a recent article. Oh, goodness gracious. Well, you know what? The Times is going to give me a problem. So I'm going to get out of here with that one, and I'm going to get the next one. But it will be in the description nonetheless. Let me get the next one. But I just wanted to show that this has been reported on several media outlets. So you get the drift of what's going on. Okay. So this is from USA Today. And this was just yesterday, June 27th, 2025. Parents can opt kids out of LGBTQ plus lessons after court decision, what it means for school. So you can go and read through this and see this was a major victory for parents in regards to their rights as parents and brainwash with a doctrine that a family may not be actively participating in believing or adhering to whatever it is that's taught in that doctrine, specifically dealing with this community. So again, the nation's highest court has spoken, but a debate over kids' exposure to LGBTQ plus literature and culture in America's schools is far from over. So they're really pushing and pressing to continue to have this agenda pushed on the children. Continue to press this agenda on the children. Exactly. But parents just want a major victory with that. So got to give it up for that. Got to give it up for that. So this will be in the description along with the rest. I have a couple more articles to present and show that this was something that just happened yesterday, actually. This is brand new. It just happened yesterday, June 27th. All right. This is something that was filed. This was a part of that case. And I have it, and I will be glad to share it with anyone. If you want it, you can email me, and I will email you this so you can have it for yourself. For those that don't have the email, there it is. But this is what was filed. This is what was filed with the courts. Uncle Bobby's wedding. Uncle Bobby's wedding. So this is something that is pushed in schools. Again, for those that's on TikTok, you're tuned in. Godspeed. I appreciate you for tapping in and tuning in. We are live on YouTube right now. You click on the link in the bio and tap in to YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube. Uncle Bobby's wedding. So it has some illustrations, and you can read through it. And that's Uncle Bobby with his soon-to-be husband. This is what the push is to teach in schools to children. This right here. So they're meeting to have, celebration to commemorate Uncle Bobby and his husband to be married. So this is all illustrated, and the little girl having questions for her uncle and trying to figure out what's going on. And it's weird. And this is the agenda they want to push on the children. This right here. So, again, I have that for anyone that's interested. And I can email it to you without a problem. But let's continue. We have some more. I just want to present all the different news outlets before I jump into some video clips that I have. I just want to present the outlets that this was shown on just yesterday. So this is from PBS. And read the full Supreme Court ruling allowing parents to pull their kids from lessons using LGBTQ plus storybooks, like we just showed. And this is the full ruling, which I have the PDF for, and the story in it. Okay, for anyone interested. So that's from PBS. The Supreme Court ruled on Friday that Maryland parents who have religious objections can pull their children from public school lessons using LGBTQ storybooks. Okay. So shout out to the people in Maryland who stood up and fought in regards to their children to not be indoctrinated and to be corrupted with the doctrine of the LGBT community, enforcing their ideologies and their ideas on children, trying to make it appealing to children, trying to make it appealing to little boys and girls. For a little boy to be a girl, for a little girl to be a boy. That is the agenda. The question is why, and specifically, in particularly, why the boys? Why the males? Again, everybody that's on TikTok, we are on YouTube. Click the link in the bio on TikTok. Come over to YouTube. We are live. Subscribe, like, share. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Leave a comment. You want to add on, do so. If you believe, praise God. If you don't, praise God. You have your liberty. I'm just here to present information. You do with it as you see fit. But why? Why is it an urgency to do this to children? Again, specifically and particularly males. If you want to do what you want to do with your life, if that's what you feel is your life, if that's what you feel is the way for you, do whatever you want to do. Why do you have to impose it on others, especially children? If a parent has not spoken to their child yet about the quote unquote birds and the bees, as it was referred to, we're just going to call it straight. If a parent has not spoken to their children about intimacy and sexuality and things of that nature, that is up to that parent's discretion. And it is their right to do it when they choose to do it. It is not to be introduced in the form of an ideology or a doctrine by people who would not have you tell them otherwise. This is what they believe, and that's fine. You can be entitled to believe what it is, but you're not entitled to force it on my children or the next person's children or child. Especially if those topics of discussions have not been brought up in the home. Parents reserve the right to do that, not a school, not a teacher, not an organization, not a movement, not any politician, the parents. So this was in Time magazine. So again, I'm showing this is something that was brand new, and a lot of outlets reported on it. Supreme Court allows parents to opt children out of LGBTQ plus school curricula, expanding religious liberty protections. Okay. The Supreme Court sided in a Friday ruling with a group of Maryland parents seeking to opt their children out of school curricula that featured LGBTQ plus characters and themes, marking an expansion of religious liberty protections. All you have to do is look up, whatever state you are in, look up the religious codes or laws of your city and your state in order for you to opt out of things in school where your children attend, where they have to honor your religious freedoms and your religious rights as an American citizen, whatever it is that you believe in, just as they believe in what they believe and they want the right to be respected for their behaviors and their actions and what they do sexually, then they have to respect everyone else's decision and what they don't want to do or know about sexually. And that's where the problem comes in, because they feel it's discriminatory if you don't accept their lifestyle. Like the weird question that a lot of them ask is, why do straight men discriminate against quote unquote trans women? Because they are not women. They are men pretending to be females. That's why. And if you dealt with that, even if they looked like a female, you would be engaging in sodomy, dealing with another man. So let's continue. The parents argue that the school board violated their rights to practice their religion under the First Amendment by rescinding measures that allowed them to opt their children out of discussions involving LGBTQ plus storybooks. The books were not used for classroom instruction or gender. The books were not used for classroom instruction or gender and sexuality. So you go on, and then everything is there, as I mentioned, is presented. It will be in the description later on. Well, let's continue. So this is very important. Why that was removed And again, salute to the good people in Maryland, whoever they are, that came together and stood up and fought against this, because it is a victory for all parents. It is a victory for all parents. Again, those in the TikTok live, we are on YouTube. You can click the link in the bio so you can join us on YouTube. Everybody that's in attendance. There's more on TikTok than on YouTube. I want y'all to come on over to YouTube and tap in over there. All right. So again, shout out and peace, Godspeed to the people that came together and did what they did to have that accomplishment. Why is that important? Because again, as we're going through it, children of that old serpent, sexual deviance, we're going to see why children are targeted, particularly males. This is not by accident. This is not by accident. It is all by design. Everything that we see is by design. Let me give you an idea why. Hold on a second. Let me give you an idea why this is important. When you look up a new term that's being used in that community, it's called maps. What is a map? When you ask your search engine and you check it out, map represents minor attracted persons. Minor attracted persons. Maps refers to individuals who experience sexual attractions to minors. They got a whole write-up on them. Minor attracted persons, MAPS, refers to individuals who experience sexual attraction to minors, and the term has sparked significant controversy and discussion in society. What are MAPS? The term minor attracted persons is used to describe individuals who have sexual attractions to minors, typically defined as individuals younger than 15 years old. This umbrella term includes various categories of attraction, such as nympophilia, attraction to infants, pedophilia, attraction to prepubescent children, so forth and so on. So they're trying to normalize pedophiles. Try to normalize it. And all you got to do is just do a search yourself. This was the search, just to show you that this is information that's known. Right? Attracted to minors, to children, to infants. And they have a community for them to reach out, to talk and get advice, and like they treat this like this is a disability or something. Open Map Community, a chat-based community for minor attracted persons to give and receive peer support. So this is a bunch of, for all clarity, child molesters and people that fantasize of molesting children to come together and speak and to have some support. Whether you're a young MAP who's just learning about your sexuality or an experienced MAP rights advocate, we're glad to have you in our community. We provide a safe, supportive environment for MAPs and allies, which are people that support this community and this behavior, by prioritizing privacy, staff transparency, and democracy. MAPs, what is a MAP? MAPs are persons who are attracted to minors younger than 15 years old who are significantly younger than themselves. The term MAP is an umbrella term that includes nepiophiles, and then it gives you an age range, primarily attracted to ages 0 from an infant to 4, pedophiles, primarily attracted to ages 3 to 11, and hebephiles, primarily attracted to ages 10 to 14. It's all child molestation. So it has, you know, their terms of service and all, like, this is crazy. Again, that'll be in the link in the description with everything else. Let's talk about something interesting. In regards to this behavior. And some of the lies that's been taught within this time of what I'm gonna present. Some of the lies that's been taught, or some of the myths that we've heard. And again, this is not an advocacy for anything or anyone. I want to make that clear. This is not an advocacy for anything or anyone. I'm just presenting the information. Some of you may know, some of you may not. Again, this is not something that is exclusive to me knowing. There's other people that know this information. Some are a little bit more knowledgeable than what I'm presenting. But nevertheless, this is for those that are tuned in now that may not have known about this, may have heard about it, but didn't know fully. And now you can look further yourself with the information that's being presented. Again, people that's in TikTok, come on over to YouTube, click the link in the bio, tap in, and join us on YouTube live on YouTube. So we heard about a specific group in the 1930s, 40s, during the time of World War II, a specific group, very controversial. And when you mention them, they automatically aligned and attached to every form of hatred and racism and evil, right? Well, let's read some things about this group and let's see what was going on. This was back in June 2024, last year. How Nazis destroyed Berlin's burgeoning LGBTQ plus sexology institute. Wait a minute. So these people were burning things attributed to this lifestyle, this way of living. This is on Yahoo News, and it's not the only outlet. There's tons of outlets that have written about this, and you can research this yourself. As always, all I'm doing is presenting the information. Take it and do with it as you see fit. Go research yourself some more. Dig deeper to see if what I'm presenting is not true. The links will be in the description. So it says, in the decade before Hitler's rise to power, Berlin was experiencing a cultural, creative, and economic boom known as the Golden 20s. Attitudes towards sexual minorities during this time in the Weimar Republic were becoming increasingly liberal. Bars were LGBTQ plus. People could meet and live openly were a commonplace in 1919. So this type of behavior and stuff was present in 1919. And before that, this type of behavior is not something that is new to this quote unquote timeline. This type of behavior is a behavior that can be traced back biblically. It's one of the reasons why the flood came and destroyed the earth. One of the reasons. It's one of the reasons why fire rained on Sodom and Gomorrah. One of the reasons. It's also one of the reasons why the Tower of Babel was destroyed. And the people were of one speech and in one mind and one way. But back since 1919, this behavior was present. And who's behind it? Established by gay Jewish sexologist Magnus Hirschfeld, the Institute for Sexualwissenschaft, written in, I guess, German. What I get from that is sexual witchcraft, or Institute for the Science of Sexuality. But I still get from that sexual witchcraft. Is widely recognized as the first sexology research center in the world. Back in Germany, established by a gay Jewish sexologist. At its peak, more than 40 people worked at the Institute, which housed the major archive, research library, museum, medical examination rooms, and lecture hall. Pioneering research. Psychiatrists, gynecologists, sex educators, dermatologists, and librarians all worked at the Sexology Institute, researching a diverse range of issues around gender and sexuality. Radical studies were undertaken to better understand complex and, at the time, extremely controversial questions related to sexual and gender orientation, intersexuality, and reproductive health. Hirschfeld was at the forefront of research into trans issues, which the sexologist coining the term transsexual in 1923. So this guy Hirschfeld coined the term transsexual in 1923. Trans people were employed by the Institute and were also able to access essential services that were not available anywhere else, including facial feminization surgery and facial masculinization surgery. There's no question these surgeries were experimental and came with clear risk due to the medical technology available at the time. Alongside Hirschfeld, surgeon Ludwig Levi Lentz worked closely with trans patients to start hair removal treatments and advocated for their rights to Berlin police officials. Trans people and cross-dressers faced arrest by police in the city when wearing clothing deemed only suited for people assigned a different gender at birth. Transvestite passes were issued by the Sexuality Institute that trans people could show to police to avoid arrest. Hirschfeld became well known for his outspoken advocacy for LGBTQ plus rights and founded the first LGBTQ plus rights organization called the Scientific Humanitarian Committee in 1897, which was based at the center before it was destroyed by Nazi supporters in 1933. So again, this will be available in the description with every other link that was shared tonight. So we see there's a group of people that's been criminalized and spoken about to the extreme with hatred and so forth and so on. And I wouldn't doubt that there was things that were done, you know, for that to be. However, there are always two sides to a story. All we've received is what's been told to us. That's all we received in school. Everybody that's tuned in, you know it. You heard whatever you heard about Hitler. You heard whatever you heard about the Nazis. It was fed to us. It was told to us. This is what happened, but we never got another side of the story. We never heard anything else. That's just with everything in general. We always hear one side. We don't never hear the other side. Well, let's continue. This is from a site called the Holocaust Center. Zickelman, the Holocaust Center. The existential threat to the LGBTQ plus community in Nazi Germany. And this is from 2023. So again, it gives more information in the beginnings of this movement, as far as being given coined phrase names like transsexual or transvestite, and a place that was founded to advocate for them, the Scientific Humanitarian Committee in 1897. So this is interesting right here. Death in captivity. From 1933 to 1945, around 50,000 men were convicted of homosexuality and sent to prison. Of those, around 10,000 ended up in concentration camps. Of 50,000, around 10,000 ended up in concentration camps where they faced slave labor, torture, rape, forced castration, medical experimentation, and murder. So again, just bear in mind, looking at the name of the site and the source of information, you can expect some bias in what's being reported. And that's always been the problem. Whenever we're given reports on situation, on any situation, it's always done from a perspective of bias. It's never what happened or caused the reaction for the action. There's always two sides. So let's continue. Let's continue on. Let me share it real quick. And let's go through this. Again, those that's tuned in on TikTok, we are live on YouTube. Come on over to YouTube, click the link in the bio, tune in with us over there.
The book burnings in Germany in the 1930s are widely mentioned in the media, in school, and in books. Whenever National Socialism is brought up, the book burnings are named as one of the main evils that were committed during that period. The book burnings have become a byword for state censorship in general. My main question regarding the way this event is presented is simply this. Are book burnings inherently bad? Why is it put on such a pedestal? The official Holocaust Museum's own video on the topic starts off like this.
To burn books is simply a fundamental repression of ideas.
I mean, what can a book do? And why is it so dangerous that it needs to be physically annihilated?
If book burning or censorship is so unheard of and egregious, why did we ban 30,000 books in post-war Germany during denazification when the Nazis themselves only banned around 4,000? The event itself is constantly mentioned, but it's also always glossed over extremely quickly. Few stop to ask themselves, what books did the Nazis actually burn? This fairly simple question is rarely looked into. When asked, the answer is usually just Jewish books and they didn't like Jews, and then no further comment given. This is not good enough. It's time to actually look into what these books were and why they were burned and then banned. This is a very sensitive topic for reasons that I'm sure you can figure out, so I'll present the books and their contents without opinion. Also, my Patreon is down below if you enjoy these videos and wish to help me on my way to being able to make these videos full time. Anything helps. My Telegram is also down below. To discuss the book burnings, a brief summary of the cultural change during the Weimar Republic is needed, as a large part of the rise of the Nazis was a reaction, or you could even say revolution, against these cultural changes. Again, I will not comment if these changes are inherently good or bad. If you're Christian or vaguely conservative, this period is seen as disgusting. To gay people, it's seen as the biggest step forward in their struggle to be equal. After the collapse in World War I, Germany was in a terrible state. Communist revolutions rose and fell, nationalist militias rose to meet them. Stuck with heavy loan repayments to the Allies, the German currency was not in a good shape, and things would only get worse in that regard later on. Life had begun anew, the old regime was gone, millions had died or been disabled fighting for a Germany that no longer existed. There was no triumphant return for them. A sad, depressed, and nihilistic world arose from the rubble. Berlin was the epicenter of this new world. The old values were gone, and the new were in. The crippling poverty had turned many to work in the streets. There were as many as 100,000 prostitutes or sex clubs at any one time, just in that one city. It wasn't confined to a red light district like modern-day Amsterdam, for example. This was the city. The most unusual culture arose in what some would call a modern-day Babylon. There was a street in Berlin purely filled with pregnant prostitutes, another with disfigured ones, acid scars, hunchbacks, you name it. Another was purely mother-daughter teams who would dress exactly alike. A lot of what went on in the city, many in the modern world would agree with. This aspect, most would find abhorrent. On a more acceptable level to our modern society, homosexuality was rife, and one famous Brit who emigrated called Berlin a bugger's paradise. Thousands turned up from all over Europe to the one city they felt their life would be accepted and even promoted. Drugs were widely available, mainly morphine, opium, and cocaine. Transgenderism saw the light of day. Magnus Hirschfeld, a homosexual scientist, founded his Institute of Sexual Research. Here, All moral laws of the past were out the window, and people were free to experiment with gender, bizarre
that's the
sexual
guy, that's their
fetishes, or
hero.
browse his collection of sex items he had on display at the
That is the
Institute.
guy.
He was known as the Einstein of sex, and the first occurrence of someone
Hirschfield. That is their hero. A Jewish sexologist.
undergoing a full male-to-female gender reassignment surgery was done here. Berlin was essentially liberalism run wild. An important aspect to note is that many, or even most of the leading figures of this new liberal culture and the liberal government at large at this time were Jewish. I say this without opinion or further comment. Many Jews talk openly and proudly of this period, and if you're a liberal and some aspects of this time is part of your worldview that you strive for, this is your prerogative. Whether this type of society is right or wrong depends on your worldview. The National Socialists, however, found it abhorrent. As a result, many of the books on the banned list were indeed by Jewish authors. This is just a brief overview of the culture at the time. I'll eventually write a video of its own regarding the Weimar period and its part in the rise of the Nazi Party. Hopefully it gives you somewhat of an idea of the time that they were living in, as it actually isn't covered very much. Only in the past few years has attention come its way on the internet.
This game,
Sorry about that.
you're not ready for it.
All right, let's get into the burning.
The burnings started spontaneously by the German Student Union. They called for a cleansing by fire of books that went against the German spirit, which they felt were leading people astray. The Union published the 12 Theses, a reference to Martin Luther's 95 Theses and written in a similar style. It went as follows. I've replaced all the uses of the word Volk with people instead of folk, which sounds stupid in English. 1. Language and literature have their roots in the people. It is the German people's responsibility to assure that its language and literature are the pure and unadulterated expressions of its people's tradition. 2. At present, there is a chasm between literature and German tradition. This situation is a disgrace. 3. Purity of language and literature is your responsibility. Your people have entrusted you with the duty of faithfully preserving your language. 4. Our most dangerous enemy is the Jew and those who are his slaves. 5. A Jew can only think Jewish. If he writes in German, he is lying. The German who writes in German but thinks on German is a traitor. The student who speaks and writes on German is, in addition...
So, if you're paying attention to the timeline, prior to what transpired in World War II and Hitler's rise, this is what was going on in Germany. That lifestyle of the LGBTQ plus community. And the hero, Hirschfield, that is being spoken about. And then you will see in the books, no different than what I presented earlier, that brought a victory here in the States based on what transpired in Maryland. And you see one of the exhibits that was presented, Uncle Bobby's wedding. This is the type of paraphernalia and things that was being pushed in Germany. It was all in the books. It was in the children's books.
Faultless and has abandoned his duties. 6. Discipline and political education for us, the students, not mindlessness. 7. We want to regard the Jew as alien, and we want to respect the traditions of the people. Therefore, we demand of the censor, Jewish writings are to be published in Hebrew. If they appear in German, they must be identified as translations. Strongest actions against the abuse of the German script. German script is only available to Germans. The un-German spirit is to be eradicated from public libraries. 8. We demand of the German students the desire and capacity for independent knowledge and decisions. 9.
Link in the bio. We are live on YouTube. We are live on YouTube. There's a lot of people in the TikTok. You're not seeing what's being presented. That's being presented on YouTube. So click the link in the bio. Come on, come and join in and tap in.
We demand of German students the desire and capability to maintain the purity of the German language. 10. We demand of German students the desire and capability to overcome Jewish intellectualism and the resulting liberal decay in the German spirit. 11. We demand the selection of students and professors in accordance with their reliability and commitment to the German spirit. 12. We demand that German universities be a stronghold of the German people's tradition and a battleground reflecting the power of the German mind. Nearly a month later, the book burnings began at the epicenter of Weimar culture, Magnus Hirschfeld's Institute of Sex Research. 20,000 books were burned. These types of spontaneous book burnings continued until it became a whole movement of its own. The motives, in their eyes, are summed up well by Goebbels in 2 passages from his speech relating to the burnings. Yes to decency and morality in family and state. Here, the intellectual foundation of the November Republic is sinking to the ground, but from this wreckage, the phoenix of a new spirit will triumphantly rise. As the ever-growing Nazi movement saw it, the years following the disaster of the World War had been a mistake. Germany had gone down.
All right, so that'll be in the description, and you can go further with that one. We got another one. Okay, so out of that, in time, something else was birthed. In time, something else was birthed.
In the early morning hours of June 28, 1969, a riot broke out in front of the Stonewall Inn in New York City. The violent protest became known as the Stonewall Riots. The Stonewall Riots were a watershed moment in the gay rights movement, sparking activism and awareness across the United States. We'll look at the roots of the riots, the events, and their lasting impact. In the 1950s and 60s, homosexuality was still considered sodomy and illegal in 49 states. The punishments varied greatly by state, ranging from heavy fines to imprisonment. In society, members of the gay community were often subject to violence, harassment, and discrimination. In New York City, gay bars were havens for people with diverse sexual orientations and gender identities, places where they could avoid harassment and violence. The Stonewall Inn served as a popular refuge. The Stonewall Inn was owned by the Mafia. The Mafia bribed the police to look the other way. In turn, the Mafia made money overcharging patrons for drinks. Even so, the patrons were not fully safe from homophobia and discrimination. The Mafia would extort wealthy patrons, threatening to out them to their employers and families. Despite the Mafia's bribes, the police still solicitation of homosexual relations. Trans and other gender nonconforming.
Once again, tune in. Those that's on TikTok, tune in. We on YouTube live. Click the link in the bio here on TikTok and join us live on YouTube.
People were also targeted, subjected to violence, and arrested.
Other than that, you won't see anything. You'll just hear me when I engage in speaking. But if I'm quiet, that's because something is being shared.
If they weren't wearing what the police deemed gender-appropriate clothing. This oppression and mistreatment came to a head in the early morning hours of June 28, 1969. 9 police officers entered the Stonewall Inn in a raid. The patrons were fed up. As the police roughly tried to arrest bartenders and customers, many resisted. Outside the bar, people in the hundreds began rioting. They threw bottles at the police and pushed through the barricades. The police officers retreated from the crowd and locked themselves inside the Stonewall Inn. Rioters responded by setting the bar on fire. Police reinforced.
By the way, that place is located in Manhattan, in the area known as the Village. Greenwich Village, to be exact.
Enforcement arrived, and the original officers managed to get out of the burning bar. Meanwhile, the angry mob had grown into thousands. Eventually, the police were able to get the crowd to disperse, but it didn't last long. The riots continued until July 1st. While some criticized the violent and destructive riots, others pointed to the brutality and unjust treatment of the gay community. This large-scale defiance made a massive impact on society. The Stonewall Riots were the beginning of the modern gay liberation movement, which also brought attention to others marginalized for their sexual or gender orientation. The riots sparked the formation of the Gay Liberation Front, the first group to publicly advocate for equal gay rights. On the one-year anniversary of the riots, they also organized the first Gay Pride Parade. Today, Pride events are still held on the anniversary of the Stonewall riots in cities around the country and even the world. In 2016, President Obama made the Stonewall Inn in the area outside where the riots broke out a national monument.
Now, I'm going to pause there for a second. Let me get this guy's name again.
Riots broke out a national team. President Obama made the held on the anniversary of the Stonewall riots in cities around the country and even the world. In 2016, President Obama made the Stonewall Inn in the area outside where the riots broke out a national monument.
He's done more for that community than any other living president. Look it up. Obama than any other living president. So for all the people that are he did more for that community than what people thought he was going to do for quote unquote black people. This is back in May 13th, 2012, that they gave him a cover. On Newsweek. The first gay president. This is from the Huffington Post, HuffPost, May 13th, 2012, updated December 6th, 2017. Newsweek, date is there, May 21st, 2012. The first gay president with I wonder why. I wonder why. Anybody have an idea why? Well, let's continue with the video. Let's get back to it.
This became the first national monument celebrating gay history. The Stonewall riots may have been violent, but they marked a pivotal moment in history. No longer would people quietly endure the stigma associated with their sexual and gender orientations. Through the Stonewall riots, the gay rights movement gained mainstream visibility and a momentum that continues to this day.
So that is basically Cybertron for that movement. as headquarters for that movement. That's home base for that movement. That place right there. It was made a landmark monument by the first gay president, as mentioned by Newsweek, not by me, not by my slander, not by me being funny and calling somebody out their name. I'm just repeating what is on the article. That's what it says. That's what it says. Right? So out of that also came, well, not out of that per se, but around the same time you had the push of the women's live movement. And also in this time, you had a lot of families being broken apart in order to receive assistance, in order to receive help from the government. That family was broken up. And this is all targeting the children. All these different agendas is all targeting the children. Again, children of that old serpent, sexual deviance. So now, with this going on, with families being targeted and women leaving children's fathers so they can get the assistance, the free assistance from the government. They even made movies about it, which I'm going to share a clip later. They made a movie about it in the 70s. It's called Claudine. I'm going to share a clip. But this is why it is the way it is today. And we see children being raised without fathers or male figures. And really the only male figure that should be, in any child's life is their father. Not a stepfather, not another baby father or nothing. It's supposed to be their father. With that not around, you got young girls following their favorite rappers, singers, reality stars now, or streamers, trying to be like them, doing the things that they do, saying what they talk about. It's amazing. There's so much talk about manifestation that when you say something, you manifest it or whatever. But that doesn't apply when you talk evil. That doesn't apply when evil is being spoken. You're not manifesting some evil. Or if you're talking some sexuality, you're not manifesting that type of energy. Right? Young girls over sexual, promiscuous, or masculine, trying to be a trans. Damn near every female artist now is over sexualized. It's a pushing of the defilement of your flesh to be engaging with more than one person. It's amazing all the people that speak about spirits and energies don't understand that when you sleep with someone, that's exactly what you're doing. You transferring energy. The more, if you're a female, the more men you sleep with, that damages you. And vice versa. Same with a male that sleeps with a whole bunch of women. This is another topic of discussion. But this is what happens to young girls. Now, look at the young boys. Growing up effeminate. Like that's something that's pushed heavily. The effeminacy of males. I seen a reel on TikTok and on Instagram before of a woman, you know, saying, well, in the text it says, my boys don't need no man, they got me, you know, with that you know, that same music that's used for videos and posts. Pow, pow, pow. And she's walking, twerking, and behind her are 3 boys twerking. Feminine as their mom. Without a man, without a father present, this is what happens. Even to the point of changing themselves, becoming trans. Or on the flip side, over-sexual, dealing with females and womanizing, only using them for, you know, that purpose. But don't let them have a daughter and you do something to their daughter. And most don't care. Right? Or violent. Pushing the violence. No matter what anybody want to say or agree to or disagree to. If you have a platform and your platform has the capabilities of influencing millions of people that are watching, then you're responsible for what it is that you put out, especially if you have a channel that young people are going to be attracted to. And a lot of these, be it podcasts or shows or streams or whatever, you have a lot that gear towards violence, advocate violence and that life, which again is strange to me. I've never seen it like this before, where so many people that are supposed to be gangsters and all these different type of attributes that they take on are talking so much. This was never done in the 90s, in the 80s. And I can speak more from the 90s, being, you know, a young man in the 90s. And to, you know, from the late 80s into the early 90s, becoming a man, a young man. I've never seen this before. So much talking and speaking on things that shouldn't be spoken publicly. And then you wonder why certain things happen that lead to arrests and indictments and so forth and so on, because there's a lot of talking. And then you have people making money off of it. But again, this is all off of young men, and make their bank from the content that they present of young men being violent with each other, particularly black and brown young men being violent with one another, and in some cases leading to death. Right? But why are they so focused on the boys to make them effeminate, trans, bi? Never just being a straight young man to meet a straight young woman to continue the process of life, the reproduction. Because 2 males cannot do that and 2 females cannot do that. They cannot produce and bring forth life. Why are they constantly targeting the children, particularly the males? They even had shows about it. Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, where they go around looking to convert men into that lifestyle. I presented before a choir from the West Coast that scoffed at how they're planning to convert our children, and that possibly through converting our children, the children might even convert their own parents. And you have older people that deal with the same sex, and there's nothing more than that. And again, I'm not advocating for it or condone any of it, but you have some of those that are enraged at what these modern day ones are doing, trying to, force it on the children. The picture of the video of this presentation is of something called Story Time with Drag Queens, where a drag queen will come into a classroom and read a book to children. A man dressed as a woman, lipstick, makeup, nails, a dress, sometimes with a full beard, will come in and read a story to children. If I'm not mistaken, it started in Canada. In Canada, they don't do a Pride month, they do a Pride season. It goes from June to September. So make no doubt about it. This is something that is an agenda, is something that they're pushing heavy. There's a reason why they target the males. And it's biblical. By the grace of God, I'll come back with it to show it. And it's clear, if you believe in God's word, if you believe as it is written, then you can argue this because it's what's written. With that, I say peace, salute to everybody that tuned in and that tapped in. All the links, everything that was shared will be available in the description. But before I go, let me play the clip from the movie. Let me play the clip from the movie. And then let me play this clip real quick. I said I was gonna play it. So you can see, you know, this is something that was real. When it started getting heavy, when there was a lot, it was a rush and a lot of people getting on, you know, this public assistance.
Welfare people gonna find out, then you gonna be the man, the welfare man.
That was James Earl Jones. That's Diane Carroll.
They just keep on saying I'm amazing. Someone showed up.
So they got word that the caseworker was coming. And they hiding all this stuff that they shouldn't have because they need assistance.
It's a hard sacrifice.
Not even a run.
That hallelujah, loving man, society gave us no choice. Tried to silence my voice, pushing me nowhere.
Check out the dialogue. Listen to the dialogue.
Just stand there and let her in.
I'm trying to prove my ignorance. For goodness sake, why should he help me so?
Hello there. Children, would you cut that music down? Just turn it down.
Hello, Mrs. Price.
Hi.
How have you been?
Oh, grand. Living like a queen.
Mrs. Price, have you been working?
No.
Because if you have, I really have to know. Otherwise, you get into trouble.
No, I ain't been working.
Mrs. Price, you know I'm your friend, but you have to be honest with me.
I ain't been working.
Well, I understand a man's been visiting you regularly this past month.
You are not supposed to spy on us.
I didn't spy on you, Mrs. Price, but someone has.
It must be that lady, that bitch across the street. She'll say anything, that bitch.
The thing is, Mrs. Price, if something comes out later and I don't know about it, you'll be in all kinds of trouble. So, if you've been seeing this man...
Well, what is this? Am I not supposed to see a man? What am I, a damn nun?
No, but if you've been sleeping with a man and he's been giving you things, I'm sorry, but I have to know.
Do you sleep with a man?
Now, that's none of your business.
It's none of your business either.
You're wrong, Mrs. Price. It is our business. This man may be bringing things into your home which you may not be deducting. Now, you know I have to deduct you on those things.
What things? What things, damn it? You have a man come over for dinner, he brings you a bottle of wine. I have a man come over for dinner, he brings me a damn six-pack. Oh, there are two left, Miss Kayback. Would you like a beer?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Price.
I'm sorry, too. I figured it out. It comes to about $1.35. If he brings my kid some soda, that's about 80 cents. Now, with quick figuring, that comes to about $2.15, Miss Kayback. That's plus tax.
You mean to tell me that only gives you $2.15?
How much do you get?
My oldest daughter.
So you, the assistants, she couldn't have no man in the house and had to maintain the appearance of not having things, I guess, of luxury that she cannot afford, or else why would she be asking for help? That movie was 1974. I was born in 74. So I know about this movie later on in time and hearing about it. So if that was how it was in 1974, can you just imagine how it is now, 50 years later, with that same program and how it is, and so many fathers that are put on child support, and this is all by design. It's all by design. Specifically the working class, the poor, black, white, Puerto Rican, whatever. Because it's not just single parents within the black and brown community. It's also in the white community as well. And I'm speaking about this country. I'm not talking about across the planet, specifically within this country. An attack on the children, but specifically the males. And like I said, it happens to white as well, but this is something that is specifically targeted towards black and brown. The effeminization of the males. And again, this is a planetary thing, but what we see mostly in this country. You go to Thailand, you go to Vietnam, you go to those type of places, and they have lady boys. So this is something that is across the planet. But I'm talking about this country when it comes to the males in this country. As we seen with the presentation, there was a time where if you were a homosexual and you lived that lifestyle, you would be arrested. Or if you was wearing clothes that was not according to the gender, you would be arrested. Now they have freedom and they're able to do whatever it is that they do. Right. Now they're able to do what they do. Now they want to try to force it on everyone. So that was a major win. And again, I have that PDF for anybody that wants that. What just happened yesterday, where parents won and were backed by the Supreme Court, where parents are able to pull their kids from any class or any type of teaching of LGBTQ plus doctrine. Parents have rights. Parents are the ones responsible for everything with the child, but when it comes to this, they don't have a right. That's ridiculous. They're responsible to make sure they have food, clothing, shelter. But they don't have the right to say, no, I don't want my child to learn about this or to learn about that. And you have a group of people that want to force this ideology on everyone. Again, if it's something that you do, that's your business. To force it on children, that's where it becomes parents' business. And salute again to those parents that stood up in Maryland and got that victory in the Supreme Court. And that's something beautiful for all parents. You got to know the codes of your state, the city, in regards to your religious rights and freedoms. And, you know, have a letter to present to school or what have you, so your rights are respected and your child's rights are respected, just as any other child's rights are respected. So with that, once again, peace, salute, thank you for tuning in. All the things that were presented will be in the description, all the links. Children of that old serpent, sexual deviance. If you're not familiar with what the word deviant means, look it up and get the understanding of why they are the children of that old serpent. And why they're targeting the children, specifically the males. God willing, we'll go through that more extensively in the near future. I'll be back next week by the grace of God with another one, with another presentation. For now, that's Children of that Old Serpent, Sexual Deviance. Peace. It's God time. Do you see what we see?